How many of you remember the exact moment when the Twin Tower was taken down? What were you thinking? What was going through your head? What memories was engraved? This is how February 24th is for me. The day that I would like to forget, but will always remember. The day that changed so many lives, including mine. But before we get to that point, I would like to start from the beginning. My beginning. I grew up in a small town on the south of the country, Mykolaiv region. The town is called Domanivka. This town is really dear to me because that's where I went to high school. Met so many wonderful people that I called my friends. Learned the camaraderie playing team sports. Growing up in a small town, I always had a dream. As a little girl, I loved the idea of being fluent in English one day. Well, I would say about 15 or 18 years later, that dream led me to America. America! It was the Au Pair in America program that brought me here. I lived with wonderful American Jewish family. After the program, I went to college, graduated from University of Florida, married a wonderful guy, and had a cute kid. You would say, my life is wonderful. It's magical, whimsical. It's what I really wanted. It came true. My wish came true. However, my heart skips the beat every time I'm thinking about my motherland, Ukraine. The war is the ugly business. So many people were forced to leave their houses, and so many people were forced to stay. For example, my uncle, aunts, and two cousins who live in Enerhodar, Zaporizhian region. Right now, in the occupied territories, in the middle of the march, the tanks came into the city, trying to capture the largest atomic power plant in Europe. It was their goal initially, but then they decided they would not stop there and occupy the entire city. Right now, they are implementing new regime, as they call it, the new Russian peace. They strip down all the business from their duties unless you yield to the new government. That's the only way to survive. Some people who disagree had to quit and find some other ways to go by. So far as my cousin tells me, the living cost tripled and the medication tripled in increase in 3.5% on medication. It's hard for them to know what the future will bring. As far as she knows, her husband and her cousin's husband, they have a job, so their only means to provide for their family there still exists. So we'll go by as long as they can. But it's getting harder every day. As far as my family, my mom still lives in little town Domanivka. My brother lives not far away as well. They are safe and out of harm, thanks God. I haven't seen my mother for 4 years, and this year when I went to make a big celebration for her birthday, but I was not able to due to war. However, this group my mom volunteered with made her birthday special for her. So this group that I would like to talk to you about it happened to be, it rose in the middle of March, the volunteering movement that was started by my volleyball coach. He makes nets, and he decided he wanted to contribute to fight the fight against the Russian invaders. That's the same gym that they have as location as their volunteering center. The same gym that I used to study and performed and perfected my volleyball craft. Right now, it's being converted to make camouflage nets that are so in need right now. We had a troop station in the middle of the march where my coach got contact with, and now he directly works with the troops in the south and the east. All these camouflage nets that they are making are going directly to the people who really need it, and they do really need it. It helps them not only save their equipment and hide their equipment, but also helps people to protect in the really themselves from being seen in the sky. I'm here on their behalf to ask you help me, help them, this volunteering group, and raise some money for them and contribute to their manufacturing of camouflage net. So far, this group consists of only 8 people, and these people are local at this place. It's a matter of life or death for them. It's a matter of concentration on good and contribute to good and contribute to the fight and the victory of Ukraine. My mom says it's really hard to go and work every day from Monday to Friday, but the fruits of the labor are rewarding. The knowledge that one day Ukraine will be free again. So they do their work, but they really need your support. They really need finances to get more supplies, more fabric, more nets. So please help me, help them to do more good. And one day, and I hope that day will be soon, when the Ukraine will be victorious because of the brave people that are protecting their border. Thank you.
Thank you, Evgeniya. That was really emotional for just seeing more of a personal face on what's going on over there. I really appreciate you helping us become better informed about what's happening in Ukraine. Now we are going to be having a question and answer session, which is going to be facilitated by Marjane Taylor. Please help me welcome her to the physical lecture.
All right, do we have any questions for Evgeniya? Anyone in the room have a question?
Yeah. Is there any issue with getting supplies to make the camouflage nets?
No, so far they have found a way to buy fabric, and as long as they have a supplier who provides the fabric they can make camouflage nets from, they seem to be okay. It's right now they have been stripped down from any of the funding, and the community doesn't help either anymore. So the only resource that I get, that the one I'm able to ask from people that I know, from my friends, from family, just talking to people about this volunteer movement in my hometown. As far as I know, they're just getting by a small means, and I would like for them to continue the work and not to shut down, because they actually working with the troops that have really need it. And if I didn't know that there is a huge demand for that, I wouldn't push forward with it.
Any other questions? Either here or Bob Costello, I see has a question.
Thank you, Madam, for the floor. This is a difficult time. Your emotions are high, the families, and having served in the military myself, I wonder what promoted it. I also feel this is not the Rushkaya. This is not the people. This is the leadership. Can you tell me what rationale is being said from your point of view as a person in Ukraine? Why did Russia invade Ukraine? It doesn't make any sense at all.
It seems to be, the war in Ukraine hasn't started just now. I mean, it started in 2014 when the Russia annexed Crimea and the war led it. And the Eastern Territory were occupied because we have Russian population there, which was pretentiously fooled to believe that when Russia comes, the things get better. So those two regions, Luhansk and Donetsk, have been occupied and was trying to separate from part of Ukraine. And we had that, as they call it, a military conflict since 2014. As of now, Putin haven't moved much to either annex those territories or move further into the country. And the only reason that he could see the invasion is to spread the propaganda that we have some fascists and nationalists living in Ukraine, and Russia needs to invade to rescue Ukrainian people or the Russian-speaking population from those people. The truth is we don't have those people that they're talking about, and the means of and I don't see any reason for them to invade unless for them to spread their own lies and then go and act on them. Ukrainians just want to have their territories back, the ones that belong to Ukraine, such as Crimea and Luhansk and Donetsk. We're an independent country, and we're not going to give up the territories that are historically ours. Well, I think Vladimir Putin lives a big dream that the Soviet Union needs to be reunited, and Ukraine is a huge part of that. So in order to make his ludicrous dream come true, Ukraine was the first target on the list, and that's how it started. Of course, I'm not a political analyst, but this is the news I have been gathering from Russian independent journalists and that I hear from Ukrainian media. And that's I think the idea that forms in my head. I don't have any other explanation why he should invade us except just convenient for him. Thank you.
I see Bob's hand up again. Is there anyone else that has a question before we move back to Bob again? All right, go ahead, Bob.
Are there any natural resources that Mr. Putin wants that is of value in the country? Because this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It seems to me it's his decision, not the people.
It truly is. He is a monarch there. The power is totally autocratic there. Their people have no way of saying what's right or wrong, and he spins his agenda the way he wants. Ukraine does have natural resources, but I'm sure it cannot compete with Russia in those resources. We do have fruitful soil, and we have lots of agricultural supplying wheat and all of the other crops to Europe. But I don't think that's the only reason for the country to be invaded, just because he needs more agricultural supplies. I feel like some of his understanding what he wants, he doesn't really know. As far as he knew, or as far as agenda was in his mind, that Ukraine was supposed to be captured in 3 or 4 days, when they bombed Kiev, when the tanks came in, they did not have a lot of supply that would seem the war was going to be a long-term war. They had some hidden soldiers and hidden supplies that were already prepared to have a parade and say, oh, Kiev been captured in 4 days, Ukraine with us. But it didn't happen because the Ukrainians retaliated with the little of means that they had. And I think it was a big surprise to Vladimir Putin to know that Ukraine doesn't really want to be part of Russia, as I think he thinks.
I've seen a few other people with questions. Julie Sago, did you have a question?
I really want to add something to it because what Bob was saying is leadership. And since I lived through the terror in Hungary, very similar to what is going on right now, this is the leadership and terrorizing the people. I just looked up in the internet, Hungary, who is bordered with Ukraine, just allowed 250,000 refugees going through Hungary, either staying there or going somewhere else. And they are helping, my friends are helping. But the purpose was not to leave their homeland, but they are forced to leave their homeland. They want to go home. And this is just a power-hungry leadership that is very hard to understand in America, because it is hard to understand. It's like the sexual predators. But I want to really re-emphasize what you heard from this speech and what how important it is to ask for help, because Hungary is a small country, Ukraine is a small country, and it is very hard to resist the power like a big Russia or the Soviet Union.
Okay, thank you. And ABM Uden, I believe you might have had a question.
Yes, thank you, Marjan, for giving me the opportunity. I know that how high the emotion is running here and even across the world. But I think that I will take courage to ask the question, and which is not an easy one. That's why it is hard for me to ask. But remember, in the West, it is an overwhelming opinion in favor of Ukraine. But the world is way bigger than that. If you go to Russia, they have an opinion. If you go to China, they have an opinion. India has an opinion. And there are some dissenting voices in the USA do not get across the media. The other day, I was hearing a professor. He was really blaming USA for the crisis because Russia is a superpower and USA is building military bases right in the backyard of a superpower. So Russia will react, right? So how do you explain that who is not so much favor of the USA foreign policy?
You know, I wouldn't come to close what happening in United States and what's the vision of United States to be closer to Russia, and do I know if there will be some military base in Ukraine that United States planning on being? No, I don't. Only I know that when Ukraine gave up their nuclear power in 1991, Russia and United States were the two countries that assured Ukrainian independence and Ukrainian right to live in their country. So right now we're looking at the situation when we don't have any nuclear power to retaliate, nor that we would to. but aggressor keeps telling us that when he decides, he could definitely use the nuclear power as a weapon, and he would aim it toward Ukraine just because he doesn't have any other means to move forward with this war. So when Ukrainians give up their nuclear power, where one of our so-called to be friends, Russia, now invaded us, and the other partner in this document, United States, were assured us that they will help. And now we're seeing that our President Zelensky has been asking for helping more and more. And I think only right now in the end of summer, the Lend-Lease, I think that's the correct name for it, it's only gonna start happening for us. But the war has been going for at least 4 months. So how is it then distribution of power? You can really, like, how is that fair distribution when some countries are giving up for the sake of the rest of the world weapons, and the other countries take advantage of it?
Okay, we're running a little bit late on time, but I see 2 more questions. So maybe, Evgeniya, if you could give just a real brief answer to Pamela Winter first, and then after Pamela, Juliet, and then we'll move on after that.
Thank you, Marjane. My father was born in Ukraine, so I am at least half Ukrainian, even though I was born here. I have to address ABM Udin and the fact that I understand countries today will strategize on a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan or a 50-year plan. I understand that. But I also understand that there is one aggressor who attacked an independent sovereign nation without provocation and continues to target humanitarian needs like hospitals, like schools, like shopping centers. This is absolutely uncalled for. And as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the rest of the world is concerned, that is terroristic strategies that are completely uncalled for. And that is a comment that I wish to make.
Thank you, Pamela. And Juliet, do you have a question or comment?
I do, Marjane. So I feel very far away from the Ukraine. And so just trying to get a better understanding of like the daily life. So I heard you speak about your mom and she does go to work every day. Are there, like what I saw on the news, and I don't watch a lot of news, but what I saw on the news in the beginning is that, you know, your people had to stay in bomb shelters and all of that. Is that still a thing? Like, are there like daily bombs going off? Are, you know, children having to be in the shelters and, you know, singing Elsa and all of that? Like, what does that look like?
Yes, there is some. So it happens that my mom is in a more safer region. So people who can work, she's volunteering. She's not really working. Her work is to volunteer and make camouflage nets. That's her dedication, and she doesn't have any other job and otherwise. We do have people in this bigger cities such as Mykolaiv, Odessa, and they are currently being really heavily bombarded. Since I have a friend in Mykolaiv, and she says they've been going to the shelter every time they have, you know, the possibility of a bomb or missile going toward the city. I think over the weekend, Kiev was bombed, so is Kharkiv. So the cities that are most heavily being bombarded, The people go into the shelter and they hiding if they have no other means to escape from the city. Some people choose to stay because they have no any other way to go anywhere. Like my cousins, they also staying in occupied city, and we have a couple of few regions that occupied right now, including Kherson and Zaporizhia. Those people either staying and trying to go by their means, or trying to live under the new regime with new money and new government. So I think it's really divided depending on the territory right now. But it's still true for those people who are in the, I would say, red zones right now. They have to go through hell, especially the ones that are heavily bombarded.
All right, thank you, Evgeniya. And there's actually a question that came in on chat and on my text, and that is, how is there a way for people to help fund these nets, for the camouflage nets? Is there PayPal? Is there a certain group that we, that...
Yes, they have a PayPal account that I could put it on the chat. I also have my PayPal account that I sent to him. I have a Facebook chat that I would like everyone who wants to donate to be a part of that group as well, because as a representative from that group, I would like to give people a feedback what's happening in the group every day on the daily basis. I created. Yes.
Thank you. And if you could just put that in the chat, and then maybe also email it to me, and I can send it out to